get your podcasts. And now, here's the show.
4 nights, I think.
Yeah. I keep saying I want to make one of those, but because I know a lot of people that play them, but I don't know. There's something about being on a cruise ship.
What is it about? I know it's weird.
don't
The whole
know.
idea is weird, but it actually was fun.
Was it?
Yeah, and as far as the weather, I mean, I brought Dramamine because I get seasick, but it's totally, it's a solid boat, and sometimes you can feel it move just a little bit, just a
Hmm.
tiny bit. Uh, we went on one about 3 years ago on the Atlantic, pretty much the same idea,
Yeah.
and we hit a storm, and
Oh no.
I was just about to take the Dramamine because it was getting funny, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea, it's they have it organized so if there are 4 bands playing within a couple of hours, they have them staggered so you can hear half an hour of one band, and then go upstairs and see 20 minutes, half an hour of another one. They, their bands are playing all over, playing. We played twice, but a lot of bands play 4 times.
Oh
So
wow.
and so it's and really, there are only a couple thousand people there, but that's not really that many when you consider that it's spread out. There might be
Yeah.
6 shows going on at once. The ship is massive.
Do you get any bleed over from, or can you hear the other bands? Are they
Not
far
at
enough
all.
isolated?
Not at all. I mean, the ship is 13 floors, and so they have a band on the deck of the pool. They cover the pool up, and they have saunas in the back, and they set
Oh,
up a
okay.
stage. And if the weather isn't bad, you play out there. If it's too windy, they stop the show or they move it to another
I
place.
got you.
And then they have an auditorium that it holds 800 people. Looks like,
Oh wow.
I mean, it looks like it could be on land. A high ceiling.
Yeah.
It covers 2 floors, basically, and it's a big stage with real seating, and then they've got clubs, and either clubs or restaurants, and some of them have a balcony. So
Yeah.
there's a crowd on the bottom. You can stand on the top. You can eat at a restaurant. It's pretty, it's organized very well, and there's plenty to eat. And
Of course. There's always that buffet.
yeah, but it's the strangest thing that I experienced was on the first cruise we did. It was pretty much the same thing on the Atlantic, and there was a band playing around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I was kind of bored with the band, so I said, okay, walk around the ship. So I went to the rear of the ship, and there was another cruise ship right behind us, and there was music coming out of that one. And in the
Oh
mid
really?
Atlantic, it was such a weird, you know,
Yeah.
feeling. They're like, what's going on? Humans are taking over the sea, and rock and roll's taking over the sea.
Yeah.
So,
Where did y'all sell out of?
well, it was out of Miami.
Okay. Which ports did y'all hit? Where does it go?
This time we went to Nassau, and I
Okay.
didn't get off the boat. So, uh, but if I wanted to scuba dive or
Yeah,
buy
whatever.
trinkets,
Be a tourist.
yeah, I wanted the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't know. I see, like, did you see Jesse by any chance? Dayton?
I did. Oh, well, not that on that one. He
Yeah. No, the one you just got was on.
uh, was he on that?
I don't know if he was or not. I know he was doing one. Um, he had posted about it, but I
Yeah.
don't know if he was
He
on with you
wasn't. I
guys or
mean, I
not.
didn't see him playing. He wasn't on the list, and I didn't see him. You see most people walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't talked to him in a while. I know he had posted something about being on there. I didn't know if he was on with you guys or not. So I was going to ask you something else. So I know Billy's been sick. How's he doing?
He's doing fine. He had some things to deal with a couple of years ago.
Right.
We canceled one part of a tour, but uh, he's actually doing fine. That I mean, you don't know. You know, uh, what is he 70? Is he 77? I think.
Oh wow. Okay.
Uh, something like that. And he's never been the most active person. He leads a sedentary lifestyle, but he seems to be immune to everything. He's had a couple of problems, but so he sits down when he plays, and he has some arthritis every once in a while. When he's playing a while, he's okay, but like sometimes the first show, his hand will just freeze up for a second,
Oh no.
and it's not like he can't play at all, but sometimes it's, you go, why didn't you play that? And he goes, I don't know, my hands were stiff. So that happens sometimes, but he never practices. I think if he warmed up, practiced
Yeah.
before tour,
Yeah.
he'd be okay. But once he
Stay
gets
limber.
going, he's fine. He's
Yeah.
so I think he's indestructible. It's really
I think the
bottom line.
band's indestructible, to be honest with you.
So I don't know. We're so lucky that we're still around. I mean, just most bands, their life is
Right.
3 years, 5 years, and I don't know. Yeah, we're the last band standing. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a fan of you guys since Los Angeles. I saw y'all play out in Houston when I was growing up, and I remember walking out of there. It was on a total whim, and I was like, X, who the hell's that? And then it was like, wow, when I walked back out, and I've been a fan of them, and of you guys, and like, the Blasters. I think the Blasters opened for you on that show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting back to like the health things. Have you noticed anything with your playing as a drummer? Your wrist issues or elbows or anything like that?
It's the only thing. Last year we played a lot of shows because we had the album released,
Yeah.
and at the end of one tour, I had a problem with my right hand. What would you call it? Just maybe just it was strained.
Yeah,
And
like a carpal tunnel, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's carpal tunnel. Yeah, that's I couldn't think of the word. Carpal tunnel. And I let it rest for about, we had a 5-week break. I didn't play at all because it was hurting. In fact, I kind of got back into it, and if I played with any force, it would hurt. So then we had a week, about a 1 week, a week-long tour after that. And the first show I babied it, and I got through. And I swear it was the worst show. At least people loved it, but I just felt like I was playing, at my lowest,
Yeah.
when you can't really play with power. And then I just kind of eased in, but it's been fine after that. So I think I have solved the problem. I mean, when I've had time off, I practice. I had like 4 months off, and before this cruise, I practiced every day, and that helps too. But I think the problem was I was using a ride cymbal that was too light. Like about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I brought rides. We were trying to play a little softer, and I brought some rides to rehearsal, and Billy's so particular. No, I hate that one. And I brought this 19-inch Armand. What's it called? What's it called? Not the Sweet Ride. It was called the Armand Ride. It's called an Armand Ride. It has a rivet in it, and it's a kind of a nice cymbal. It's too nice to play, I think, with rock and roll and punk rock.
Yeah.
And Billy goes, "Oh, I love that cymbal." So I've been playing that, and it sounds good. And we put mics on the cymbals. So I think trying to get too much ping out of it, because we play pretty loud, and so you end up playing too hard. And I think that was it, just playing really fast eighth notes, trying to get that articulation. And I think it did. So I just changed over to a 20K that has, it's a nice cymbal and has more ping. So
when you practice, do you use a full kit, or do you alternate between like a pad and?
I do two things. I usually I start out, not always like this, but I try to do an hour of snare drum. So I put a pad on the snare, and I just warm up and play some rudiments and play out of some drum books, and then I play with a full kit, but with rags on them. And I have a kind of a soundproofed area, but you can still hear the boom boom, and also I wear earplugs and earphones while I'm practicing drums. But yeah, I play with rags, T-shirts on the toms, not on the cymbals, on the toms, and I have to be careful not to practice too hard because that'll hurt your hands too.
Right.
But yeah, so that's it. Yeah.
What you mentioned books. I got to ask, have you ever done the what is it, the stick control book?
Yeah.
Have you ever done that one?
I've been through the whole thing. That it's funny. I got that. I think it was the first book I ever bought, and I started playing. I don't know, the end of 1967, way back in the Stone Age, and at that time they say, here, play a single stroke, double stroke, and a paradiddle, and then get this book. And I think a lot of people, because I was a drum set player, I started out kind of a marching band player, but
yeah,
you only get through the first 3 pages. And I've had drum teachers go, yeah, just play the first 3 pages and do these variations, and they play between the kick and the snare, and all these, and I played through a couple parts of the book, where it gets into 16th note triplets, da 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 da, and
right.
so not until I went back and took lessons from Murray Spivak, the famous drum teacher in LA that everyone takes from, and he waits about 6 months into your lessons and says, okay, now buy stick control. And I went through the whole book, and the way he talks about it, he says in stick control you'll learn about pressure. He says you learn how much pressure to put on the stick, because he likes to keep everything economical. So I mean, even just like it's got billion pages of rolls. So how much, a difference between an open roll and a closed roll. So if you do a closed roll, you put a little more pressure, and he has you play the first 3 pages really slow at 80 beats per minute. So it's like da, ba, 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 ba. Really, he doesn't try. He wants you to play it slowly, and he wants you to bounce, do a rebound. So it gets to be difficult. So you have to kind of control that, learn to play at the slowest tempo, but play in time. But yeah, a lot of the book is just about trying to play different rolls at different speeds, because a roll is at the same. To play a roll, you play it at the same tempo, basically. Like if you're playing a I don't know, a 9-stroke roll. If you go da 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 da, that doesn't sound right. So you have to have to play a 15 or something. Da 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 da. So a lot of the book is that, and it's also you distinguish between what he would call a finished roll and an unfinished roll, and that's basically if there's a tie on a roll. So if you're playing a 9-stroke, you go da 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 da. You play, but if you're playing the same thing with it, there's like a space in between. You play a 7-stroke, so you go da 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 da. So I slowed it down. 1, 2, 3, 4 da 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 da. That'd be a finished roll, and an unfinished roll would be da 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 da, and the last beat. But it's interesting the way he teaches rolls is that when you're learning the rolls, he has you play the downbeat, like the last beat, on the upbeat. So if you start with a 7-stroke, you go da 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 da. You hit that accent, and he has you do it on the on the upbeat, because he wants you to play the double strokes as cleanly as possible, as opposed to going, and hitting the downbeat. So, and then when you get into stick control, you learn to temper that last beat to do an unfinished roll. So, you're practicing da 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 ba da da da, and then suddenly you're playing da 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 da. You're hitting that last beat of the 7-stroke roll really light. Yeah. So I don't know that. And then all the flams and all the flam pages, all the yeah. So I finally got through it, and then I went to accents and rebounds, his follow up book,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, that's a bitch.
What got you? Who was your influences? Why did you go? I want to play drums. What made you do that?
Okay, I'll give you the mythology first, and then I'll tell you what it was. My family had a picture of me at about 18 months, uh, crawling uh, on the kitchen floor, pulling pots and pans out of the cupboard, and they called me the plumber. And it's funny. I just went, "Oh yeah, isn't that funny? I'm the plumber." And about 10 years ago, I was looking at that picture. I go, "God, I'm so stupid." You know, I mean, you don't know what you were thinking at
Yeah.
that age. I was thinking, well, I was playing drums. I was looking for something to hit. So that's the mythology. It may be true, maybe not. But um, I had two older brothers, and my oldest brother played guitar. And at one point, and we were listening to music on AM radio. It was at that time. It was out here. It was KHJ, KRLA, KFWB, and they were playing the Beach Boys, the Beatles, um, Motown. There, as time went on, they'd play Dylan. So we were into music, and I bought a guitar, and I wasn't really into it. I didn't quite take, but I was always hitting things. I had a Frisbee that I got some drumsticks from my brother's friend, and I started hitting
Really?
I started hitting, and I think I was, playing to something like "She Loves You" or something by the Beatles, and so this is what happened. My brother had bands. The first one, uh, his friend left a snare drum and a hi-hat, and I would sit down and play on it. So, and then they had a real band, The Garage, and I would sneak in and try to play the drums when they weren't there. So part of it was just the availability, because you don't want to turn on the amp. And the other thing, I think I just felt like
Yeah.
I wanted that action. I think drummers are I've always been kind of physical, and I've always run around circles, and I think I
Yeah.
had that hyperactive energy. So
Yeah.
that was that. So I just listened to music, and I think eventually I got a basketball, and I put that by the bed, and the basketball was the snare drum, and the bed was the tom tom.
Oh
You
wow,
know,
that's funny. Yeah.
and yeah, and then I started. As time went on, I took lessons, and rest is history.
Did you do the whole marching in school and things like that,
I
drumline?
did. What the I wanted actually. I remembered in elementary school, I wanted to join the band, and I wanted to play drums. And I remember that the teacher's name was Mrs. Hafner, and they used to call her Mrs. Halfnote. And I went in there and I said, I want to play drums, and everyone wanted to play drums. They said, well, we have too many drummers. Do you want to play trombone? And I said, no. So I didn't start. And then when I was 12, my oldest brother became a Nichiren Shoshu Buddhist. It was like the thing in 1967. Nam-myoho
Yeah.
Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And so he was into that, and I go, hey, I want to do that. I want to do what my brother does. So I started going to those meetings, and after a while they said, hey, do you want to join the marching band? So that was the first marching band. I went in there, and they had teachers. They said, what do you want to play? This time it was saxophone or drums. It's either trombone or
Yeah.
saxophone or drums. And I go, oh, drums. So they said, buy 2B sticks, a practice pad, single strokes, double strokes, paradiddles. They wrote it down, start practicing. So I did that for a while, and then they had a whole musical organization. It was weird. After I progressed in a couple of years, I was playing pretty well, and like 2 or 3 years, I started playing in their big band, and they used to play. They used to back singers, and so it was interesting. So I did that, but then when I got into a junior high school, uh, I think the first year, I think I took beginning band, then I took band and orchestra, then I went through high school band and orchestra. Uh, and
Did you play any jazz band in school?
yeah, I did. Well, in the Buddhist band, that was my first introduction to jazz. So I did play some jazz in junior college, but um, it was called the Tribune Band, and they used to. What was the guy's name? His name was uh, Charlie Montez, and he was the band leader, and he used to write charts, like big band charts. So I remember, I was a pretty good reader, but I'd never read big band charts, and they're giving me these
Yeah.
4-page charts, and you know, and I wasn't the greatest, but they had a better drummer who said, this guy is Dick Bond, and he said, I want to be the band leader. So you play drums, you're pretty good. You're getting pretty good. So they just threw me in, like, threw me on the fire and threw
Yeah.
me in the
Sink
pool,
or swim.
sink or swim, but and then there were interesting people in that. It's like, um, yeah, I don't even know if I can describe it, but there were, some really good musicians, and a mixture of amateurs and really good musicians, and some people that were like, there was a guy, David Blumberg, who was an arranger for the Jackson Five and Marvin Gaye, and he
Oh
was playing
wow.
trumpet. He was a member of the
Yeah.
organization. So he was, and you talk to him, and he goes, it's 1970. He goes, yeah, a lot of the funk drummers are playing both hands on the hi-hat. And I was at Al Green's house the other day, and he was showing me this stuff, and you're going, what the.
Yeah.
And so there were people like that in the band, and they would kind of come and go. So I was playing jazz then, and then I played in the college, junior college big band, Valley College, and I was playing in the orchestra of the band, just. But I played in the B band, and then the next year I auditioned. There were 20 people auditioning, and 2 of us made it. So, I was a pretty good reader. It was 1975 or 6, something like that. And so I was in it for a semester. Then I was kind of going through a transition, like, well, do I really like big band music? Do I really, I was going, should I play symphonic music? Well,
Yeah.
I really like it, but I'm going to a junior college. Am I going to get into the LA Philharmonic? And also, um, I needed more action. Like, I was playing in the Valley Youth Orchestra, and played with them for 3 or 4 years, and we had a percussion ensemble, and we did some of the basic things. We did competitions, and we won first place, and I'm going, well, I like this more, like, where the drummer can actually do something. You're not counting measures,
Yeah.
you know. And I fantasize about all these. Wow, it'd be great if you had this giant percussion ensemble, and you know, uh, you know, become Terry Bozzio and have a 90-piece kit, and then uh, play some weird rhythms, and so. And then there was the other side of me. It's like, you know, Mongo want play drums, want to hit things hard,
Yeah.
and be a punk rocker. And it was funny, the conductor at Valley College in '77. I remember I was playing timpani, and I forget, we were playing the Sibelius First Symphony, and he stopped the orchestra. He said, I was known as Don, not DJ, and he goes, Don here is playing punk rock. I don't know why. He had heard that. He's going, he goes, why don't you have green hair? He's teasing me because, I had been in the orchestra for 2 or 3 years, and, so one of
Were
the
you
better.
playing in punk rock bands back then?
I started, yeah, 19. Like, I met the Eyes, Joe and Charlotte, in beginning of '77. Like, sometime, I don't know what month it was, like March or something, and yeah. The weird thing is, because I didn't realize I still played in the orchestra and band until the end of '78. So, I didn't realize until I found a program of some concerts we did. I used to think, yeah, I was at Valley College, and then I joined a punk band. Then I quit school, went to New York, and toured New York, came back, played Madame Wong's, and you think you don't think things overlap, but I realized, yeah, I was playing in the school orchestra through, I was playing with the Eyes and at the Mask in 1977, and then 78 I joined X, and then I was still going to junior college, still playing in the orchestra, um, and yeah, it's
So I
funny how
mean, you pretty much jumped like out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak.
well, in a way, but I was always uh, playing rock music. I was talking about these other things. I'm playing in the school orchestra, this and that. And but I was playing with my older brother. I was in bands. We had a number of bands, and we were what you called at the time a top 40 band, which meant you played Led Zeppelin, Bowie, the
Yeah,
Beatles, you know, classic rock, Deep Purple, you know. We'd have a list of 30 songs, and we had a couple originals, and we were playing high school dances. We would go to, yeah, my brother was good at that. He would go to high school meetings, the dance meeting, whatever they're called. I don't know, like the he would get us gigs. He would just pick out a school and call them and go, "Hey, we've got a band. You need a band for your high school dance?" And we would do that, and uh,
that's awesome.
so and then I had an original band somewhere in between, like in 1975 and 76, called Rocktopus, and we were just a weird old band with, uh, you know, playing subversive music that no one wanted to listen to. It's like kind of Hendrix and Zappa, and
Yeah,
something weird, just being as weird as possible. Two drum sets, and you know.
you didn't have go-go dancers on the stage,
We
did
didn't
you?
have go-go dancers. We didn't, but we did. Our lead singer would dress up in an Elvis sequin suit with Christmas lights connected to him, and he would get on stage and plug in the Christmas lights and dance around. Just weird stuff. We used to audition at discos because you couldn't play regular clubs, and they would always turn us down. We did our best to play
Yeah,
around, but mostly we were rejected. That was pre-punk rock, and so in a way it was natural to. In fact, that's the band I was playing with when Charlotte Caffey from the Go-Go's. She wasn't in the Go-Go's yet. They saw us play a show, and our lead singer was drunk because he had broken up with his girlfriend, and Charlotte and Joe Ramirez, they had a band. I don't know if I guess they were called the Eyes already, and they said, and I left in disgust. We had two drummers. I left the stage because it was so embarrassing, and they came up to me and they said, "Hey, we've got a band. We're better than this band." Well, yeah. I said, "Well, he's lead singer's drunk, and they said,
yeah.
you want to join our band, come into Hollywood, and okay, why not,
When did you connect with the X? How did
uh,
that come about?
well, that came because I was playing in the scene with Joe and Charlotte, and it was a small scene. Everyone's hanging out the same place, going from gig to gig. Hey, it'd be like, what's happening tomorrow night? Oh, I think someone's playing at the Larchmont Hall. They're renting it tomorrow, and so I knew John by sight. I don't think I knew Exene, but um, and he heard me play with the Eyes, and they were looking for a drummer because their drummer had left. This guy, his name was Mick Basher, and so he saw me play at the Mask, and I don't know, it was getting close to the end of '77, and he said, "Do you want to play with my band? Want to audition?" I said, and it was like, okay, we don't play nearly enough drummers. I don't know if you're the same, if you've been the same, but it seems like most drummers I know play in multiple bands.
Yeah,
Maybe because it's just a thing. I think it's because they're hyperactive, but and everyone else is sitting around talking about what they want to do, and the drummers are like, "Come on, let's do something." But it's
Right.
also maybe there aren't enough drummers, and drummers can fill in easier. Don't have to learn the chords; you just learn the structure.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so they had me audition, and I went, "Oh, they're really interesting, really good." And I started rehearsing more, and but they gave me the ultimatum. I was liking the band. They said you have to join either us or the Eyes. You have to quit one of the bands.
Yeah.
And I at that time I just felt that X had more variety in the songwriting. There were it allowed me to play more interesting beats. A lot of the bands that were playing punk rock would try to, I don't know how to say this, but they would try to limit the vocabulary. Let's say they would go, if you go, okay,
Yeah.
now
Yeah. I
here's the
see what you're
beat,
saying. Yeah.
or it'd be it's like two different things,
Yeah.
and and the Eyes weren't quite like that. They did some couple interesting things. They were a good band, but I thought X had more going for them. So uh, yeah, I joined the band the beginning. Like I forget what I think our first gig was the beginning. It was like March or April of '78. I don't know. I don't know. It was it was it was a benefit for the Mask at the Elks Lodge, and there were a bunch of bands playing 2 nights. Like 8 bands a night, and it was interesting. It was reviewed by the L.A. Times, and uh, uh, they kind of panned X. You know,
Really.
yeah, they said nothing special here. And then it was Robert Hilburn who became uh, our most uh, dedicated, uh, uh, you know, uh,
Fan.
fan. Yeah, I mean he Robert Hilburn would write about us, every year, and people would write to the L.A. Times, go, I don't care about that stupid band X. All you talk about is Bruce Springsteen and X, you know. But yeah, he. I mean, it was the first gig, so I think it took us a couple of years, I think, to develop, you know,
Yeah.
how we actually played.
Yeah. That was about the time I think I really fell in love with a lot of bands that came out of that scene. Like you guys, and you had Los Lobos and the Blasters, and you had all these LA based bands that were coming out that were playing, like you're saying, they were playing every night around that scene. And I remember I grew up in Houston, but I remember just thinking, God, I got to get out there. I got to live there just to be part of that,
Yeah,
And
did you
here I
did you
was.
come out? Did you come out?
No, no, no. I wish I had. No, I couldn't get out there. I was stuck. Um, just because parents, and I was young at the time, still doing high school, and just could never really get out, and it wasn't until I got much older, and, the internet, and, where I didn't have to clamor for magazines at the bookstore to see, why isn't there a story on X in this magazine that I'm reading, or something like that, or somebody from the LA scene back then. That was such an amazing time. There was a lot of bands that came out there, and they all cross pollinated.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about Charlotte McAfee and all that. How those bands crossed over. Was there anybody for you when you joined X that was making an influence that maybe was on that scene that you were impressed with their playing and thinking this person's got something? Was there anybody like that for you?
Well, I mean, the one of the most interesting, one of the most formed bands at the time were the Weirdos. And when I came into the scene, they had the total outfits, these crazy homemade
Yeah.
clothes, and Nicky Beat was the drummer. And you know, you wouldn't. I mean, he. I can't explain him, but he just played punk rock with intensity. You know, he just made a face, and he would just playing the hell out of, you know. the drums. He was an influence, like, you know, as far as like a punk rock drummer, and then of course there were people on the scene like Sean Guerin was great in the from the Deadbeats, and he was John Guerin's son, and there, you know, and if you know, do you know who John Guerin
Yeah,
is?
yeah,
Okay, well, I mean, Sean was an awesome player, and they were a weird, you know, more progressive punk band. They were, but I think Sean at the time, I think he was 15 or 16. He was young, and he would play barefoot, and he would play stuff that would just, you know, blow your socks off, you know. And it was interesting to see that in the punk scene, you know.
to see an actual sort of player.
Yeah, like to see an actual player, because you know it was an interesting mix of people who were just starting to play, you know, and there's something to that, you know, the primitive aspect, and then people who are, you know, seasoned musicians, and so it was the whole scene was a mixture of that. I think a lot of the scene, you know, sometimes people say, oh, you know, people are just picking up instruments at the time, but that existed. But a lot of the musicians were people who couldn't get a footing in the music scene because it was really closed. You know, you couldn't play clubs. I mean, people were just kind of playing in their living rooms or trying to find a place where they could play. You know,
Was
and
that because of the style of music, the genre of the music at the time, you think?
maybe partially, but I think it was just the music business had become this. Uh, being a music center, L.A. It's like it was all record companies, and if you wanted to play the Roxy, you had to, you couldn't just come in and go, well, I've got this band, and I think we're really good. I mean, if you had something like that, you'd play a teen center somewhere in
Yeah.
Reseda, you know. And that's what Van Halen did. I mean, when I was playing in some of these other bands, the top 40 bands, we would play these teen centers. And in 1975, 76, people go, yeah, you guys are okay. But that Van Halen band, you should see them. They're from Glendale. But I think it was hard to play. There weren't clubs you could play at, you know. I mean, disco was happening, so there are people
Yeah.
doing that, and then there would be original bands, but mostly there were touring bands and record company bands, and I don't know, I used to hear these legends, not legends, but like people would talk about, oh, I got this demo deal from Warner Brothers, like yeah, they gave us $5,000 to make this demo. I never knew anyone who got a demo deal. Where would you hear about that? You had to know somebody. I'm sure there was
Yeah.
nepotism, or you just had to
Yeah.
be the neighbor of someone who was, in the music business. So I think it was partially the music. I mean, rock and roll, you know, was a little more civilized by that time, as the '70s went on.
Yeah.
You know, and even bands that were wild and crazy, they kind of went for the radio hits, um, and so yeah, it was a little more restrained,
Yeah.
and
I
and
think
so
about that same time you started to get some structure, within the scenes where the streams never crossed. This genre stayed over here and this genre stayed over here, and the bands started kind of separating where you didn't have the cross pollination. Like if you look at some of the older bills from back then, you would have um, Van Halen opening for I'll just say Huey Lewis, and you're like, that's completely two different sort of bands.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
see those older flyers like that.
yeah. It's like the Bill Graham things. I mean, you
Yeah. So
see,
yeah,
uh, 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 what's it? Miles Davis opening for, I don't know, Jimi Hendrix. I don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. But what
yeah.
weird combinations, and
Right.
a one man band opening for, for somebody. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw the weirdest concert I saw was Captain Beefheart at USC, and the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo, before there were Oingo
Oh
Boingo.
wow. Yeah.
They were, they started their show by they came down the aisle of the auditorium in monkey masks playing drums, and then they went on stage and did something. Then they closed the curtain and come back, and they would do some weird Dixieland scenario. That it was one thing after another. But opening for them, the first band was a one-man band. So even then, I was some strange things. And in the punk rock scene, it was a mixture of that. It was like it depended. There would be the power pop bands, and then the punk bands, and then there'd be weird, conceptual bands like the Bob and Bob, and like I'm trying to think what. Not Guar wasn't around, but I mean, but that kind of weird stuff, like you're messing up the stage and you're doing conceptual, something, or body paint, or it was kind of a mixture of things like that.
Yeah,
because that was the only
ventriloquist on the side of the stage,
or something like that in a puppet show.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, with X, I know you guys have been pretty loyal to your sound throughout the years. Is there anything that you think, in your terms of your playing, that has changed? Have you? Because I mean, to be honest with you, to watch you when you played here on the side of the stage and when you did your solo, it was pretty damn impressive. And I never really associated, a drummer playing the music that you guys play to have chops. I mean, to be honest with you, and to watch you do that on the side, from the side of the stage, was just like, wow, man, this guy's really freaking impressive. And I'll tell Jesse, we texted the next day while you guys were on the road, and I told him how impressed I was, with your playing. But do you think through the years your playing has changed in any way? Have you adapted a certain style or anything like that?
Well, let's see. I think I have gained more confidence. So I remember like trying to follow the band in the early on, like, oh, Billy's playing like this. I have to, like follow what he's doing. And, John gets excited and okay, I'll play faster, and I mean, after playing a billion shows and then playing with a lot of other artists, you learn to be like your own metronome. I mean, you can follow people, but I have more confidence in that way. Like, okay, I'm laying down the beat. You better follow me.
Yeah,
because that's my job, so I don't speed up as much. I used to get excited, and we were on the road a lot. We were drinking sometimes, and I never drink when I play now. I haven't for years. I barely drink after, or if I do at all.
right.
So in that way, and I think as time went on, I simplified parts. Even I would think about it and I go, well, I think I'm playing these funny little fancy little things, but really let's get down to the nitty gritty. Like, and I had a drum teacher who used to tell me that when I was in high school. Rock and roll is very simple.
Yeah.
And I'd always try to put something in. They would say, I hear your jazz influences. And I go, oh, I hope, okay. Is that a compliment? Sometimes I don't know what that means. So in some ways I'm simpler, but you said a drum solo. I never thought about playing a drum solo. It just, I don't know how it happened. We played the Hungry Wolf and I'm playing the Gene Krupa bump, 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 bump on the floor tom. And it used to be that Billy would play some howling sound, some feedback, and we come back in, and I don't know, somehow that turned into, hey, DJ, play a solo, or the sound, or something happened, or because I really, in some ways, I really hate doing a solo because, and I've gotten better with that concept, and it's not that I dream of being Buddy Rich. I could never be any. Who could be Buddy Rich? Who could be any of those guys? But so I mean, that's the reason I can kind of do it, because I've practiced solos and I learn an Art Blakey solo and go, it's great, but, isn't that wonderful? But the thing that got me the most about, I would always be self-conscious, and I'd be like, people don't want to hear a solo, and sometimes sometimes be really spontaneous. I'll just play what I want, and other times I'll be going, oh God, okay, should I just vamp for a couple minutes on the floor tom, or play a couple quick licks on the snare and then get out of there? And
Yeah.
like a really self-conscious, and thinking no one wants to hear a drum solo. But I've kind of gotten it down. I don't know when it's gone back and forth. When you saw me with Jesse, I forget what I was doing, but now what I try to do is I go, okay, I'm committed to this. I'm gonna play something as melodic as possible. Like, I mean, I'll play around, but I'll just go, let me go,
Yeah.
let me play something that's kind of fiery, but maybe has something. I'll come up with a little theme, and then I'll just do one final flourish and get out.
Yeah.
Try to make it just like, okay, there's your drum solo. You wanted it. You paid for it. So
Yeah.
I and the other mixed feeling I have is that I practice enough to I'm 69, so I need to be in shape so I can go on the road, and I generally feel really good. But when I think about the fact that I have to play a drum solo, now I have to play a vibe solo, which that's a whole different thing.
Really?
We do two songs with vibes, and well, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, let me finish the sentence. It motivates me to practice. So I go, okay, I'm putting this much time in. If I really want to sound good, all the other songs, I'd be great. Now I have to practice a couple more hours a day so I can sound like I know what I'm doing, and my hands don't stop. It's kind of a resigned, okay, but it's also, I think that's what keeps it exciting. I think that's why they make me do it, because they know that they don't want me to fall asleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started using the vibes. I've been playing marimba vibes for years, but it's always off and on. I'll take lessons, then I'll give it up because it's too much work, and then someone will call me and say, "Play the marimba on this." Okay, and then I take lessons again. It's my whole career has been like that. It's so hard to be a good player. I've a certain amount of facility on it, and I basically know what I'm doing. Yeah, but to be a great player, forget it. So, but we were doing an acoustic version of the band. I don't know, 10, 12 years. I don't know how many years ago it was. Our manager said, hey, we did a thing. We did Unclogged about 25 years or 30 years ago, which is the same idea. When Tony Gilkison was the band, we did like an acoustic version, and I played vibes on a couple of things. So we kind of brought that back with Billy Zoom. We said, let's do a tour where we're doing acoustic. So to make it interesting, you play some vibes. So long story short, Billy plays some saxophone because he was a sax player, way back in the 50s and 60s. So we decided to merge the two. So we play a couple songs with sax and vibes. And the way we did that, we had a fifth player, and we've had two different guys, Michael Kirkpatrick, who lives in Alabama too, and then Craig Packham, and they play guitar and drums. So they'll play guitar on a few songs where Billy needs a couple songs where you need an extra guitar.
Yeah.
And then we play "Come Back to Me," our ballad, and I play vibes, and Billy. Anyway, so I kind of take over the guitar part on the vibe part, and Billy plays sax, and then we do "I Must Not Think Bad Thoughts," and I'm playing vibes on that. At the end, they give me a solo. They give me a solo and Billy a solo, and yeah, there are two problems. Sometimes it's really fantastic. I'm not putting myself down, but it's hard to play a loud vibe solo when the band is playing at 108 decibels. Like I don't have them mic'd up. I have a couple mics, but I don't have PZMs or any of the whatever they have, modern amplification systems. And I've seen I've looked online. I don't want to watch myself play, but I've watched a couple where I'm trying to sustain notes. I could go. I'll play melodically. I'll go da 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 da. And I'll listen to those. It sounds like da da da.
Yeah, because the sound.
You don't hear it sustain.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about vibes. Vibes sounds so good. You just hit that note, and there's the vibrato. There's the the disc spinning that creates the blah, 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 effect, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So whenever it works, if it does, I just start playing xylophone style 16th notes, and people go, yeah, hopefully it sounds like something. I have no idea. I don't know. People go, my friends tell me it's great. That was wonderful. I don't know if aesthetically it's any good, but I'm playing fast, So that's why I've kind of a mixed feeling, like, oh, got to do that. But it also kind of pushes me, kicks me in the butt, because just a couple of days ago, I haven't been practicing vibes for 4 months because I didn't have to play it on the cruise, but on the tours coming up with Los Lobos, their drummer is going to come in and play with us, and I have to play vibes. So I just started like woodshedding. Okay, I've got and the solo. It's on 2 chords. It's really easy, It's like it's 2 goddamn chords,
Yeah.
And all I have to do is play, George Hamilton Green xylophone solo, 16th notes or triplets. So anyway,
well, you just mentioned the tour that's coming up. What can you spill a little bit more information on that?
I mean, it's been announced, and I think I don't know if all the shows are announced, but I think it's 35 shows with X and Los Lobos around the country.
Are you guys going to alternate who opens? Who?
Well, technically we are, but I have a feeling we'll headline, and I think it's because Lobos, their attitude. We've done this before. We've played shows and we go, oh, we'll alternate. And they end up going, well, we want to go to bed early. Why don't we don't want to stay out?
Yeah,
they're really pragmatic. They don't sound check. They just have someone do a line check. So they show up and play, and so I think they're going to end up doing that.
That's great.
It is. I love it.
I'll tell you, man. I've seen them several times, and I just absolutely adore watching them play. I love it. Because there's such a sincerity in their playing.
They're such good musicians, and they're all good singers, and they write so many good songs, and they just wing it. I mean, maybe they come up with an idea before, but they just know so many songs, and they go. You could see them like talking, on stage, like, "What do you want to do? Oh, well, let's do that. Okay,
yeah."
And they're just ready to go. Okay, I'll do that. Cool.
Yeah.
The
last time I saw them, they were doing that. They were talking, and Hidalgo had put on his accordion to play one place. I think it's got One Time in America, and One Night in America. And he put it on, and he plays a little bit of slide on it too. And him and the other, I can't remember the other guitar player's name. They were talking, and he took everything off and put his telly back on, and he started playing something else. And then they did it the next song. He had to put everything back on, but they wanted at that time. They were like, "Oh, let's do this other song," But yeah, it's. I'm really looking forward to that tour. We're, Don, we're reaching an hour mark. I don't want to take any more of your time. I really appreciate you coming on.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, after the tour, I can get you back on. We can do a summary of it and see how it's going.
It was really good. It was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. It gave me a little bit more insight, on the band and X and everything. I will tell you, I was planning on going to Nashville to see you guys.
Yeah, the Ryman.
Yeah, so I may reach out to you and see if I can.
Okay. Yeah, do that. Yeah. Let me know, because I know one person there. I'll probably know a lot of people when we get there, but yeah, let me know and I'll invite you. And that's such a beautiful hall.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen Isbell and a couple other acts in there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. Um, but yeah, I'll reach out to you when the show gets a little bit closer, and
that's great. Yeah, it's
yeah,
probably
make the
is it
drive up.
probably September or something. We're doing a few shows in starting a couple in July and a couple in August, and then most of it starts September, late
Yeah.
September, October,
Okay.
November.
Yeah. I'll definitely check back in with you, and I'll let you know. I'll shoot you another email when I get your show out. I got to edit 2 shows ahead of yours,
Hmm.
so I'll let you know when it goes out.
Okay.
And
All right. I'll tell my friends. I won't listen to it. I know what I said. I think. Oh no, did I say that? Uh,
I
oh
don't think
no,
you said anything embarrassing.
no, I don't think I did.